What's up, guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week, I've been driving the 2026 Dodge Charger 6-pack. Up front is a 3.0-liter twin-turbo inline-six, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because gasoline has been brought back to the Dodge Charger. This body style of Dodge Charger launched last year as an electric only, and I drove that car and I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't anything too great, and I thought that the price tag was a little high for what you were getting. Now, Dodge has come back with the Hurricane Straight 6, and I'm going to tell you what I feel about this brand new era for the muscle car. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 3-liter straight 6. Well, this isn't the first time we've seen this from Dodge or the Stellantis group. I originally drove this a couple years ago in the Grand Wagoneer, and then it was put into some of the lighter duty Ram trucks in order to replace the 5.7 V8. Now it is in their sports car. And in this configuration, it is the high output inline 6, making 550 horsepower. That is a beautiful, beautiful number. Now, like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Honestly, it's been shifting pretty great, no hesitations here, and it does have that sort of dual clutch fart when you do really get on the gas. So that is kind of fun to hear. Last but not least, the Dodge Charger is all-wheel drive. Now, we'll talk about there is some selectability in the center screen to put it into rear-wheel drive mode. However, when you're cruising around day to day, you're gonna have all-wheel drive, which is gonna actually be really, really nice. How does it feel to drive the Dodge Charger? I really enjoy it. It's quick, it's fast, it's fun, it makes good noises. Visibility isn't great, but it's not awful either. I'm not, flying blind over here. Muscle cars challengers have never had good visibility. However, this is a very, very heavy car, so corners are not its friend, although over the last several decades, they have made pretty good improvements for the cornering, so you could take a turn on a twisty road and you won't fly off the edge like you did in yesteryear. So that's definitely nice. Nice casual acceleration onto the highway here. It's not super loud. It drives in a very enthusiast it drives in a lot more modern way. It doesn't drive like a muscle car, and we'll talk a lot about that with the final thoughts, but it's a very fun, very exhilarating drive, but it's not the drive that I think previous Challenger and Charger owners are going to be looking for. It doesn't have that sort of brute force that the V8 had, but it's faster and it's more fun, and my favorite engine configuration is an inline 6 turbo, so it drives like the cars that I like, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's move on. Like, just this little gap here, like, I like that a lot. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. I've liked this. It's pretty highly customizable. It will give you a lot of information. You could scroll through a bunch of things here. Stellantis is normally pretty good about doing this and giving you lots to look at, and very highly customizable, which is always nice to see. My one downside with this gauge cluster is that when you do put it into manual mode and shift with the paddle shifters, the gear selection is so small, I didn't even see it. So I wish that when you went into manual mode, it did like a big giant readout or display for your gear. Would help it feel a lot sportier as well. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our selectors for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our phone options. And we have our drive mode select down to the bottom for sport, custom, wet, snow, and auto. Something knows that sport mode will turn off traction control. And then off to the right, we do have our adaptive cruise control settings. Very nice to see here in the Charger. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent. We have our hood release. Now, this is left over from the Dodge Charger electric because it actually had a frunk. So, you can actually release the hood right here. Then we have our headlight switch, auto headlights, and parking lights, as well as our gauge dimmer. And moving on to the door, we have our power mirrors, power windows, and power locks. Then moving around the door, we have two interesting features. So first of all, we have the latch to get in and out. It is a button. Everyone I've picked up in this car has struggled to find where the latch is. Not wonderful. The other is the memory seat button. Now, I love that it has memory seats. It's great. This happens to be where I naturally rest my left knee. And so, the second day I had this car, I got into it, and I accidentally, without realizing, hit the memory 2 button, and all the colors changed, the radio station changed, and it started scooting me up towards the steering wheel. I thought Skynet was finally taking over. I had no idea what was happening. So if your car randomly starts adjusting your seat, you probably hit this button with your left knee. Moving into the center, well, first of all, up on the dash, we do have this really cool LED light segment. You do get to change the colors in the interior. Dodge calls this not the color adjustment, not ambient lighting like every other company. They call this attitude adjustment. And I have to say that is awesome. But then we get our infotainment display. So this does have a lot of things packed into it. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, of course. A lot of our comfort settings in here are for the climate controls. However, we do retain some climate controls that are actual buttons. You have heated seat buttons, ventilated seat buttons, heated steering wheel buttons, dual zone climate buttons, fan speed buttons. So it's pretty redundant. You don't need to rely on the screen, which I love to see. I think this is the best of both worlds. And overall, it's a very clear display. It also has a 360 camera, again with those blind spots, super helpful. However, at night, it has a very clear display. So I was very impressed here with the camera system. Down below, we have 2 climate control vents and the hazard switch. And then we have our automatic start-stop on and off, our parking sensors on and off, lane departure on and off, traction control on and off, and then our launch mode button. So let's take a walk back up to the infotainment here for a second because it does have performance pages, which are pretty doggone cool. You have 2 really cool features in here. First of all, launch control, of course, absolutely awesome. But then you also get line lock. Line lock will lock the front wheels, make the vehicle rear wheel drive, and let you do a big, fat, smoky burnout to warm up your tires for drag racing. This is very cool. The weird thing is that you hold the brake down as hard as you can, and then you just hold the OK button on the steering wheel, and that becomes your brake pedal. So it's kind of odd to operate, but it makes doing a huge burnout insanely easy. Now, this is not legal to do on public roads, and I don't have a private test facility, so I can't show you what the big smoky burnout looks like, but I'm sure you can imagine it. But coming back down, we do have 2 USB-Cs. We have a wireless charger found in the center console that does actually charge my phone. Not a lot of companies do. Then we have our shifter in the center. The shifter is a little wonky. This is the sort of pistol grip, bark buster shifter. It's a little showboaty, a little cosplay-y as a muscle car, but it works well. We have the start-stop button down below and our power parking brake, and off to the right, we do have cup holders that even in the electric car pass, but again here in the gasoline version, they still hold the big friggin' bottle. Then we do get a center console. It does have a 12-volt outlet in there. And then we have the seats. The seats are red. I think they look fantastic. I wish that there was more red accents throughout the interior. There is red stitching on the dash, but I wish like this Alcantara on the dash was maybe red or something like that to kind of tie the seats into it. I feel like they're a little outside the normal. However, they are comfortable. They're heated, ventilated, power, and memory. Fantastic. But this is a coupe, but we still do have back seats. So let's hop back there and do a back seat review. All right, so getting in the back, something important to note is that you can get the Charger in 2 or 4-door. They use the same chassis. Not much changes except obviously the door configuration, which means that it actually has a semi-usable back seat. So there's this little tab here. You pull that up, and then once it's leaned forward, it will power scoot itself all the way up. So you don't have to adjust with any of the switches down there. That's how far it is. Now, climbing inside is not super graceful, but once I am back here, I can put this seat back. Look, I can sit with my knees not smushed. I actually have space in front of my knees. This is way more spacious in the back than a Mazda 3, than, you know, a lot of economy cars. This is more spacious in the back than a Honda Civic. Now, this seat could come back a little bit more. I'm not sure why it didn't come back when I pulled it back. But look, that's my driving position. Look at how much space you have between the seats. You can ride back here. I can ride back here comfortably. That cannot be said about most coupes. So very, very cool to see that. This is an incredibly usable car, and the four-door is just going to make it even more usable. We do have some things down here for our heated seats. We have 2 USB-Cs as well as climate vents, and we do get our center console with cup holders in the center. The red does carry on back here as well, and we get to enjoy this nice sky roof that goes front to back. I firmly believe that this back seat is a huge, huge win for the Dodge Charger. It makes it so useful, and even buying a coupe, it's not that hard to get in and out of, and you're gonna be able to fit people back here. Huge thumbs up for that, and we'll mention that when we talk about the competition a little bit later on. But let's talk about the back, because it actually is also just as useful as these seats. All right, around the back of the Dodge Charger, and here on the key fob, we do have a power-operated liftgate. That is right, the Dodge Charger is a liftback. This made loading things up, especially, you know, this is a couple days after Christmas that I'm filming this, had all the gifts in here and everything like that, made loading super, super easy. You love to see it. Hatchbacks are just the way to go. You can lift this up. You do get some storage down here. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more storage just because it doesn't have the battery pack. I feel like they could have utilized it a little bit better, but that's not the end of the world. This is still a huge amount of space. Absolutely love it. Love that it is a power lift gate. Now, it does have these handles here. You can pull it right back down, but the button is right here. Press it once and get out of the way as it comes folding back down. Love this feature of the new Dodge Charger. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I honestly think that Dodge killed it with the looks. It looks like a fresh, modern version of a muscle car. It still has those brutalist lines up at the front. I think what they've done with the LED lighting has been so, so, so cool. It has that very aggressive appearance, but it doesn't feel like you're borrowing your dad's t-shirt from 1994. You know, it has that modern feel and modern appeal to it. I think it just looks great. Seeing this parked in my driveway every day has been such a treat, and then going to get to drive it, that has been wonderful. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the new Dodge Charger with a gasoline turbo inline six? Well, there have been a few little things that bug me. The whole door handle situation is annoying. And the memory seat button, I keep hitting it. I hit it once during this video. It's just a weird placement. I don't overly love the shifter. I think that's kind of odd. However, what are my ending thoughts? I freaking love this car. I have been like a kid driving this car, to the point where like I drive so many cars these days. I never like just go on a drive for fun. I was trying to find reasons to drive this car. I was over at my girlfriend's family's house for Christmas. I had this car during my Christmas week, and they're like, oh, maybe we should run out and get Dunkin'. I was like, I'll drive, I'll go. Like, any opportunity I had to jump up and go drive this car, I took. And that, to me, internally, is a sign of a very good car. If I'm itching and scratching to drive it after I've driven so many cars, that is huge. The reason I like it so much is honestly the drivetrain. Yes, the electric car is faster. Technically, it is a faster Charger. However, if you want to make the argument that sound doesn't matter, go to your kid's choir concert with noise-canceling headphones on. Then tell me the sound doesn't matter. That sound out of the inline six is intoxicating. It's wonderful. You hear it spooling up. You hear these aggressive shifts, this sort of brrr, you know, I love that sort of machine gun fire coming out of the tailpipe. It makes the entire experience so much more lively. It feels like I'm out on a battlefield while driving this rather than in an isolation tub. And that's a huge thing for me. I've enjoyed this driving experience. It drives like a car. And that's the thing, is that this drives like a sports car. This drives like a car that I like, but it doesn't drive like a muscle car. This is a sports car. This is a fun vehicle. And honestly, the car I kept comparing it to in my head the whole time I had it was the Toyota Supra. The Toyota Supra is also a 3-liter inline-6 twin turbo. The Supra is also an 8-speed automatic transmission, and the Supra you're seeing now on screen had a price tag of $73,000. This has a price tag of $70,000. But then you realize that this has actual usable back seats, not a participation trophy like the GR86 or the fact that the Supra doesn't have back seats at all. This actually has a back seat that you can use, and a 250-pound man can fit back there relatively comfortably. This also makes just under 200 more horsepower than the Supra. Now, weight will factor into that. I think in a straight line, these will be pretty neck and neck, but it does make more power. If you want that sheet of paper that says you make more power than the Supra for less money, this is an option. It's also all-wheel drive. Now, here in Chicago and where this car was designed up in Detroit, you kind of want all-wheel drive for the 4 or 5 months out of the year that we get a lot of snow. The Supra is only rear-wheel drive. Now, a good set of winter tires will kind of level the playing field, but I would much rather have BlizzX's on an all-wheel drive car than just a rear-wheel drive car. That's a big leg up here for the Charger. And so, what I've equated this car to, I've tried to think of a better analogy. I really just couldn't find one. Regular Dodge Chargers and Challengers and Hellcats, those are salads. I know the owners of those cars would never eat a salad, but for this video, those are salads. Leafy greens, a little bit of tomato, a little bit of basil, maybe some vinaigrette in there. A traditional, healthy salad. This car is a salad with chicken and bacon and blue cheese and house dressing and a little bit of noodles and some oils. And it goes back to that Jim Gaffigan bit of when you add bacon to a salad, it becomes just you trying to find bacon in the leafy green stuff. I love a salad with chicken and bacon and noodles and all of that stuff, but it's not really a salad. That's the case here. I love driving this car. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. I truly enjoy it, but it's not a muscle car. And me personally, I'm fine with that. I am A-okay with that. I think muscle cars are kind of something that should maybe stay in the past. Big, lopey, lazy, dumb V8s that don't turn, I'm okay leaving those in history. This is a better way to drive. This is a more engaging way to drive than a big, lazy V8. But that's coming from someone that loves straight sixes. My favorite car, the Skyline GTR. The Supras have been wonderful with their inline sixes. BMWs, the M3, the E46 M3, one of the most balanced, fantastic performing vehicles, inline six. I am a huge, huge fan of the inline six. And so now driving this, I'm a big, big fan of this Charger. I really, really genuinely loved every moment that I got to sit behind the wheel of this. And I think the only problem that Stellantis has on their hands with this car is the fact that it is going to decimate the electric Charger sales. I don't think that car is going to stick around for too much longer, especially when the new, better, hotter car is on the block. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Dodge for letting me borrow their Dodge Charger 6-pack for the last week. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.